Hi everyone, I'm Tatiana Villalobos, a U.S. Air Force flight surgeon and current aerospace medicine resident. Today I'm sharing my behavioral health theory project, which looks at voluntary fluid restriction, or strategic dehydration, among female military aviators and how it contributes to urinary tract infection risk. It's an issue that touches both health and operational readiness. It highlights some real gender equity gaps in aviation medicine. So, in my introductory slide, as well as this slide, you can see an image of a female aviator who is actually my friend, a pilot physician, and she has authorized the use of these images, which I believe provide a good illustration of my subject. UTIs are a recurring problem for women in uniform, especially those flying missions. Many pilots purposely cut back on fluids before or during flight in order to avoid needing to urinate in restrictive gear or aircraft without adequate facilities. It sounds practical in the moment, but dehydration leads to slower thinking, fatigue, and even reduced G tolerance, all of which can compromise performance. Female aviators experience higher rates of urinary tract infections compared to their male peers. This image illustrates the physiological and operational impacts of dehydration, highlighting the compounding effect on flight safety and mission endurance. So what is the population and the significance? Well, female pilots represent fewer than 10% of U.S. Air Force aviators. They operate within male-biased systems, equipment, policy, and culture, systems that idealize endurance while underrepresenting women in aerospace medicine research. Therefore, addressing hydration behavior is vital for mission safety, gender equity, and overall health. Using the ecological model, we can see that this behavior is influenced at every level. Individually, it's about inconvenience and a sense that it's actually not a big deal. Among peers, talking about urinary needs can feel kind of uncomfortable or even taboo. Organizationally, cockpit design and flight suit design limit options, and I'm speaking from experience here with difficulty with flight suit design. Culturally, stoicism is valued, so pushing through discomfort feels normal. I've also experienced this in the medical field. On the policy side, the slow rollout of female urination devices only reinforces the problem. This behavior persists because aviators perceive urination during flight as disruptive or even unprofessional. In daily flying life, the trade-offs are real. Sortie length, altitude, heavy gear make hydration very tricky. And many pilots see devices as awkward or unreliable, so they just drink less. Over time, that mindset, mission first, body second, becomes the cultural norm. On the topic of social inequities and structural bias, I incorporated this image because I believe that it adequately illustrates the point that I made earlier about that mentality of a one design fits all. I can relate to the woman in this picture and her discomfort, not only for urinary reasons, but also for comfort when it comes to the fit of the design of the flight suit, mobility, and restriction. So these aren't isolated habits. They reflect deeper system biases. We know that for decades, flight equipment and policy were designed for men. Female input came later, and accommodations were delayed and honestly are still sometimes non-existent. So until women are fully represented in aerospace policy decisions, those structural gaps will keep showing up in the field. To really understand what's happening, we can look through several theory lenses: the ecological model, the theory of planned behavior, the health belief and protection motivation models, stage-based frameworks like the trans-theoretical model and precaution adoption process, and finally, the social cognitive theory. Each explains a different piece of the puzzle, from environment to beliefs to readiness for change. The theory of planned behavior helps explain intentions, how attitudes, social norms, and perceived control shape decisions like limiting fluids. The health belief model and protection motivation theory focus on how we balance risk perception with confidence in our ability to act. Stage-based models like the trans-theoretical model and the precaution adoption model remind us that people move through stages of readiness, so messages need to match where they're at. Of all these theories, social cognitive theory fits the situation best. It captures how personal beliefs, environment, and behavior all influence one another. This is a concept called reciprocal determinism. Key ideas like self-efficacy and modeling and outcome expectations directly relate to hydration behaviors. Studies show how the social cognitive theory works well for urinary health interventions. So, looking at what's been tried before, HBM and PMT-based programs raised awareness but didn't always change behavior long-term. SCT-based approaches that added hands-on skills and role models saw better results. And when equipment and policy changes were paired with training, it produced the strongest lasting effects. My proposed solution is the Hydration Optimization for Female Aviators, or HOFA program. The HOFA program operationalizes SCT constructs through education, peer modeling, and policy engagement to reshape hydration norms, setting expectations by linking hydration to readiness and safety. Together, these address both mindset and infrastructure. This chart ties it all together, showing how SCT constructs connect to HOFA strategies and ultimately drive healthier, more suitable hydration habits. Each component maps to the SCT. Training builds confidence, modeling changes norms, leadership redefines expectations, and policy removes barriers. Now, from an ethical standpoint, everything about HOFA is voluntary and confidential. We frame it around mission readiness and crew safety, not gender alone. So at its core, this program supports fairness, autonomy, and beneficence. These are values that fit perfectly with Air Force culture. This chart illustrates that the benefits are clear. Fewer urinary tract infections, sharper cognition, and improved readiness. The time cost is tiny, roughly 30 minutes of quarterly training and a small budget for hydration gear. So in return, pilots can gain more autonomy, more comfort, and better performance in flight. In conclusion, voluntary fluid restriction stems from structural, cultural, and individual factors. Applying behavioral theory, especially the SCT, provides actionable, sustainable solutions that advance both health and mission success. In short, voluntary dehydration is preventable and fixable. And a theory-driven approach, like the hydration optimization for female aviators or HOFA, gives us a practical way to protect our aviators and our missions. By investing in gender-responsive health solutions, we strengthen our military as a whole. Finally, the journey begins with identifying the problem, to understanding the theories, to putting a solution into action. The behavior change and the operational readiness go hand in hand. Thank you all for your attention.